Hi, this is Shadi, and today we will be having a very deep discussion. Now, this isn't your who is better or putting face to face which one has the better capacities or aspects, but rather this is a case study to be put of Judo and BJJ. You see, in my opinion, there's no better. They're both branches of the same tree. They're both grappling oriented, submission, position, takedowns. They just have their priorities literally reversed because of competition rules. You see, competition rules create different expressions. The BJJ pyramid, I would imagine it's the guard, followed by sweeps and submissions, and then your takedowns. And before the takedowns, there's the top position, and then the takedowns. But Judo is literally the opposite. It's your takedowns, top positions, smashing, passing guard, getting the osaikomi, and then followed by your submissions, either from top or very rarely from the guard. So I'm gonna do 3 case studies of both. First one, obviously, is gonna be self-defense, see the pros and cons of each. 2, it's gonna be MMA. Now obviously they work in all 3, but they're gonna have some advantages and disadvantages, and finally against each other. So the first one is the most important one, and that is self-defense. BJJ Gracie Jiu Jitsu was particularly made for this specific purpose, but because of schools wanting to go to competition, wanting to get the highest medals, etc., we're mostly focusing on the ground. Now, John Danaher said 2 things, and I believe to be very true. He said that in sports jiu-jitsu, you don't need to know a single takedown and you can be a world champion, but in combat jiu-jitsu, takedowns are a necessity. And the second thing that he says is that judokas are killers in the stand-up and competent on the ground, while jiu-jitsu are killers on the ground and incompetent in the stand-up. They say I work on my wrestling, so on and so forth. The big gap in jiu-jitsu when it comes to self-defense is drilling religiously your takedowns. Go watch any wrestling or judo highlights of training. No one in jiu-jitsu are drilling their techniques or takedowns in this manner. You don't need a ton of takedowns. You just need 1 or 2 drilled religiously, 1 for the big guy like the single leg, and 1 that's like easily caught and not that monumental, because monumental throws on the streets will monumentally land you in jail. So something like the single leg and something like ochigari or kochigari or inner reaps. So drill 1 or 2 of these religiously, and then on the ground, I'm not gonna even comment. Jiu-jitsu is perfect for the ground, top control, really maintaining position, and then going for chokes and submissions. So gi or no gi, it doesn't really matter. So it's really about your takedown. Just 1. As Bruce Lee says, I don't fear a man who knows 1,000 techniques. I fear the man that practiced 1 technique 1,000 times. So 1 or 2 takedowns, depending on your body type. Choose them wisely and drill them religiously. Maybe talk to your friends before class or after class. Just bam, bam, bam 1,000 times, and then just roll, because in class most likely you're gonna be starting on your knees. Now, when it comes to judo, on the other hand, it is the king of takedowns, specifically takedowns oriented with the gi. So when it comes to really controlling the posture, etc., and also on the ground, because as Danaher says, they're very competent. So something like osaikomi or pins and really maintaining it is very crucial and very important for self-defense. Even with a t-shirt, as people say, you don't really, it's not gonna be a problem. It's not gonna be a bother. You can really grab the shirt on the pec level below the armpit and then just move it around. It's gonna create, I would believe, the same effect. And grab the wrist or the elbow on the other hand and just do your judo. When it comes to maybe you're on the beach, just do like a, well, I think this is what will apply to both. When it comes to approaching for the takedowns, a street fight, it's not gonna be randori. So probably it's gonna be an angry guy swinging, trying to slap as hard or punch with like really strong haymakers. So obviously you need to understand your green zones. As Henry Gracie says, the first green zone is when you're really far away, no kick or punch will reach you. The second one is when you're like belly to belly contact. So if you can keep your hands up, your forearms on the face levels, and really go in, maybe shoot a jab or cross or two, and to get into your judo or your your jiu-jitsu, you want to go for that single, you want to go for that ankle pick or whatever it is. That would be best. Really understanding managing distance or ma'ai, that would be crucial for self-defense for both of them. So getting used to someone shooting punches at you is very crucial. Self-defense courses are a must. If you watch the Valente brothers, you watch Hickson, those katas you are seeing in front of you, they should be drilled religiously just to get accustomed to someone throwing jabs at you or kicks. So that's one thing. The second is if someone is wearing no shirt, the clinch, over under clinch like Greco-Roman wrestlers or sumo wrestlers, and then going for something simple like a hip toss, inner reap, a sasai, something that doesn't do a lot of damage, because like I said, law is important. There are rules on street fights and they're called the law. So this is something to keep in mind. So there's really no problem with both, especially judo. There's no problem. I'm not gonna go into the extreme cases like multiple attackers carrying switchblades or whatever, because that's just too extreme. No matter what you practice, you're not gonna beat that, let's be honest. But I'm talking about one-on-one unarmed combat. Judo obviously have the advantage with controlling the upper body, controlling the posture, and then getting the takedown. Jiu-Jitsu, you just need to have that one or two takedowns with good control of the body when doing them. If your single leg is absolutely perfect, or your ankle pick or your kochigari, something light and easily done, you're gonna have no issue. But the problem is, I've been to jiu-jitsu classes, we learned takedowns, but once the sparring started, we were all on our knees. That's the problem. So because if jiu-jitsu were as skilled as judokas, stand-ups, they would be as efficient as judokas in the ground, because their priorities would be far mixed. So this is the beauty of martial arts. They have different expressions, but they have specialties. Obviously they sacrifice them at the expense of other things. So our newaza is mediocre compared to a third-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, but our stand-up is not matched in jiu-jitsu whatsoever. So people who say that judo banned leg grabs, so jiu-jitsu will take you down, you're delusional. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is, because you have no comfort being in the stand-up, grip fighting in the stand-up, going, shooting, this is why someone like Marcus Bushesha is very successful as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, because he really takes time to perfect his takedowns. Now let's go into MMA. Now when it comes to MMA, both work, both have proven themselves along the decades. When it comes to judo, there's just one issue to be addressed, and that is the transition from gi to no gi. You have to, someone who's been doing judo since they were 3 years old or 5 years old, gi is gonna be you're gonna be very reliant on the gi. It's in your DNA, it's in your muscle memory, so you need to work on your clinch, your underhook, your overhook. When it comes to BJJ, I'm gonna say the same thing. You need to have that one or two takedowns, maybe a kosotogake and the single leg, very very crucial. But on the ground, BJJ or in MMA in general, BJJ has this comfort zone, because I'm assuming you practice 50-50 gi and no gi, so jiu-jitsu will have an easier time adjusting, while judo will have that transition time to go from relying on the gi into going no gi, and then really working on underhooks and overhooks. It can be done, it's easily done. Caro Parisian, Ronda Rousey, Kayla Harrison, and many others have done it. So Judo has this adjustment phase, while Jiu-Jitsu, they need to work on their wrestling, very similar to the self-defense aspect. So we are seeing a pattern here. They both work in all situations, all the three cases that I showed, but each will differ when it comes to adjustment because of their priorities. The first one having only gi and really focusing on stand-up, but also getting work done on the ground, while the other barely focusing on the stand-up. Like I said, you can be a world champion in Jiu-Jitsu and not knowing a single takedown, but they have their priorities in all of the aspect of the body, you know, upper body, lower body submissions, leg locks, etc. Now the leg lock game is very much razor sharp in Jiu-Jitsu, and also gi and no gi aspect, so they're familiarized with all scenarios except one, the takedown. So you can be like Nate Diaz, very good boxer, and then when it comes to the ground, he has his jiu-jitsu, but his takedowns are very bad. Gracie, his boxing is very mediocre. He couldn't pull guard, he couldn't do a takedown in his last fight, and that cost him dearly. He couldn't get to his jiu-jitsu. Your takedowns, if you're someone who does jiu-jitsu and very much competent on the ground, your takedowns should be a way to get to your jiu-jitsu, because this is not Ippon Judo in MMA. It's a way to get to your jiu-jitsu, to get to your dominant positions, and then eventually that submissions or win by the advantage or judges call or whatever it may be. But everything else, it should be towards your ground grappling. Judokas, their newaza is competent, they just need to adjust with no gi. Top game and finishing with the submission is no problem. Obviously you need to, you know, invest in your leg lock game, that's all it is. So both will not have any trouble if they both worked on their loopholes. So in judo, it's the adjustment phase of going from gi to no gi, and jiu-jitsu is working on your wrestling that's oriented towards your ground game. Now finally, against each other, and this one is a gray area. It can be all sorts of anecdotes. You know, I'm a blue belt, I tapped out judo black belts. I'm a second dan judoka, I took down blue belts and maintained top position, and then I finally tapped them, or they couldn't escape and the round finished, I dominated the entire round. So this one here, it can be either way. A blue belt will obviously tap out and dominate colored belt judokas. A second dan, third dan judoka who really worked on his newaza and obviously is going to be a takedown master will probably have a somewhat fair time against a blue purple belt in jiu-jitsu. So that's obviously, like I said, this is a back and forth situation between the two, so there isn't really a debate in this one. Like I said, they're both the same art with different priorities that were drawn by different competition rules. It's that simple. So once again, I apologize for my voice. I tested for the pandemic, but I need to keep my content going. This is a very important discussion. It's not always, this is better, I took this guy down, I tapped this guy, I blah blah blah. They're both the same art, like I said, but when it comes to the three case studies, they both need to work on loopholes, because no art is perfect in the end. So because of priorities, both went into different directions of specialization. Grappling is incredibly vast. So if you have anything else to add, let me know down below. Also, consider supporting me on Patreon. I have content exclusive for the patrons, and if you are a patron and you haven't watched my videos, please go watch them on Patreon. So if you have anything else to add, let me know down below. This was Shadi, and thank you for listening.